Mahjong is a tile-based game that originated in China. The version my family plays is with 3 players sitting around a square table. There are 144 tiles, each with a specific character or symbol. These tiles are placed face down in the center of the table, forming the walls. Players take turns drawing from the walls until they have 13 tiles, the dealer starting with 14. And as the game goes on, players can either choose to keep drawing from the walls or pick up a tile discarded by the player on their right. The aim of the game is to be the first player to form a winning hand of specific tile combinations. This winning hand would involve 4 groups of 3 tiles and 1 pair, called the eyes. The way I was taught was to discard the number tiles and collect as many character tiles as possible. The more character tiles you have, the more valuable the hand. As a kid, I found Mahjong far too complicated for me to understand, and I liked watching my grandparents and parents play instead. But soon I realized that I've been playing Mahjong my whole life. Unraveling my intergenerational and my cultural relationships were not too different from the strategies of this little game. But then again, it is a little bit different. So if you're here to learn the game itself, maybe find a different teacher, preferably one that can actually read Chinese. To begin the game, each player rolls the dice. In this scenario, I rolled the highest, so I'm the dealer and I am east. Where you are seated determines which wind direction is assigned to you. As the dealer, I begin with 14 tiles, and I'm the first to discard. Let's say that the set I'm dealt is this. To help you visualize, let's say that the character tiles represent culture, and the number tiles represent success. Growing up, numbers were always related to success. To my parents, being good at math was the first step to a good future. But unluckily for me, math was never a strength. So when I was being yelled at to carry the 4, or when I was tasked to memorize my times tables over 2nd grade summer, they spent a little more time than they thought trying to get me to understand, and a little more effort too. To win a game of Mahjong, you need 5 or more points. With this set of tiles, I already have 2 points, visible to the other players. These tiles, unlike any other, are called hua, fa in Cantonese, and flower in English. This first fa has a number 1, so it's my point. This might represent being born into a Chinese family. The second fa, also with a number 1, might represent growing up in Singapore, a country with a Chinese majority. And the third and final fa has a number 3, so it doesn't belong to me, and therefore does not count as a point. So far, I have 2 points. With this set of tiles, I have 2 choices. I can either continue to discard the character tiles and collect the number tiles, which I have more of, or I can take my chances and collect the character tiles. At 3 years old, my dad also had a choice. He could have stayed in Malaysia, where I would have grown up closer to my culture, closer to my relatives, or he could move to Singapore, where I would have had a better education, a nicer place to live, and hopefully a better life. And I think you can guess which option he took. But just to be clear, he moved to Singapore. So with this set of tiles, I choose to sacrifice my character tiles, my culture, and collect the number tiles, the success. At 3 years old, it was easy to adapt. When I enrolled into OFS, a community of primarily English speakers, I almost always spoke English, even at home. By 2nd grade, I avoided speaking Chinese altogether. So I sacrificed my first character tile, a red Hongzhong, and I traded for a 4. But I'd played it safe because another player had already discarded the same tile, so I knew no one wanted it. By 3rd grade, I was still enrolled in the Mother Tongue Chinese program. But I finally told my parents I'd had enough. I'd had enough of lengthy spelling tests when I could barely form a sentence. I'd had enough of faking stomach aches and headaches to spend lessons in the nurse's office. And I'd simply had enough of competing with the other kids who had moved to Singapore recently and already knew how to read and write. So I sacrificed yet another character. This time, the player on my left has picked it up, but they have not won yet. By 4th grade, I'd started foreign language French. I was no longer the worst in class. Everyone else was a beginner with me. But I'd unconsciously, but purposefully, removed myself from my culture once again. This time, I sacrificed my last character tile in hopes for my winning card. And in the next round, I've won. When I put my cards down, I realized that I only have exactly 5 points. 2 points from earlier, and 3 points because all my tiles are groups of the same number, except for one pair: the eyes, the characters. But was it worth it? My grandpa would have advised differently. He would have urged me, Kylene, pick either all numbers or collect more character tiles. But I can't even communicate that my strategy was to guarantee a win. My grandpa has been playing to win, and I have been playing not to lose. Let's play again with the same tiles, the same rules. Character tiles represent culture, number tiles represent success. If I had stayed in Malaysia, what would have changed? Of course, I wouldn't have the opportunities I have now speaking with you here today. As a third culture kid with roots in China, my great-grandmother migrating to Malaysia, I know the basics of 5 languages: Chinese, Cantonese, Hakka, English, and Malay. Whoa, French, despite being exposed to more, such as Malay and Hokkien. And I've always felt a large disconnect from my cultural identity. Older relatives saw this as a failure and would often critique me and the school system that I was placed in. How can we be the more educated generation if we can't even master our own family's mother tongue? If I had stayed in Malaysia, I would have grown up closer to them, might have even gone to a Chinese-speaking school. But then would I have been able to have the opportunity to be the more educated generation? At OFS, I've been exposed to so many cultures and self-expressions that may not have been celebrated in any other community. The reason our parents push us so hard is because they sacrificed to give us a first world education. They want us to climb higher in the socioeconomic ladder. And as students in the school, we absolutely have that opportunity. We are the ones who can finally break the cycle of cultural disconnect and intergenerational conflict. It starts with small steps. How can we truly feel worthy of the opportunities we've been given? In this round, I spent so much time waiting for the right combination of character tiles that the player on my right has won. Without luck, even with the best set of tiles, losing is inevitable. If I had stayed in Malaysia, I would have lost with no gain. In the first round, I might not have won convincingly, but at least it was more than what I started with. My whole life, I thought that connecting with my culture and success were mutually exclusive. Would I collect or would I sacrifice the character tiles? I've always known to be the better generation, but I think that starts with having a concrete identity. A key part of the game that I haven't mentioned yet are Fae, jokers. Fae can replace any tile, character, or number, and there are only a limited 4 tiles of Fae. Let's say that these are the actions we can take to further our cultural understanding. Taking Chinese reading and writing lessons will contribute to both my success and my cultural identity. It can fit into either. The more actions we take, the faster we can win. Luck is also important. The tiles you've been dealt are lucky if you're sitting with me here today. We have the power to finally stop the cycle of cultural disconnect and intergenerational conflict. It starts with small steps, taking a language class, or challenging your parents to only speaking your native language at home. But with these individual revelations, we can spark a true cultural transformation. We have the power to bridge gaps, forging a new path that honors all aspects of our diverse backgrounds, finding your winning tiles. But with all 4 phases in your pockets, it is up to our strategy, and that is up to the individual. Our mindset is our biggest winning asset. So to all the third culture kids out there, play on.